Good morning from a chilly Dover. Bloody supposed to be summer now, but doesn't feel like it. I think the temperature's about 11 degrees. So I think we're going to have to add a few layers, and we've still got our waterproofs on. Got a fair old way. I don't think we're on a ferry for about another hour and a half yet. Hopefully we'll board a little bit earlier and we can get on and get some breakfast. But adventure starts here, so let's just check in. There you go, Dover Ferry Port. There's a ferry there. Don't think that one's ours, but hopefully soon enough we'll be on board. Pretty miserable, dull, boring ride down motorway all the way, but from now on let's just hope it all gets a bit more exciting.
Excuse me, restart. Restart.
really not sure what to say or how to feel about where we are now. Our first stop off the ferry at Dunquerque, it is a bit breezy, is the Dunquerque cemetery. I've passed by Dunquerque I don't know how many times when I used to drive a truck in and out of France and Belgium, but obviously in a truck you don't get to stop at these sort of places. Very quiet, very restful, very tastefully done, but you just can't help but notice the ages of some of the people on these gravestones, and the fact that most of them were the rank of private, but maybe I'll come on to that a bit later on, because we're on to Ypres now, which is another place I've been past numerous times but never had the opportunity to stop. So we're going to have a look at some of the World War One memorial parts of Ypres, and some of the bits that you can still see, and we'll see what we make of that. So let's ride on and carry on. But it's a lovely, peaceful spot, and very poignant, and makes you stop and gather your thoughts when you realise on a relatively calm, still day, apart from a bit of a breeze, what this town must have been like nearly 80 years ago, 83 years ago, I guess, and what horrors went before us. But I'm sure there'll be even more of that as we get around some of the World War One stuff as we get towards Ypres. Just on the outskirts of Ypres, and this is the Yorkshire Trench and Dugout. Site's undergoing some restoration, so not all the information's here, but I believe that this was found as they were doing some work building this local industrial estate a good few years ago now, and they uncovered a whole system of trenches and proper dugout bunkers from the First World War. It's called the Yorkshire Trench, so I'm assuming it was possibly constructed originally by the Yorkshire Regiment, but the information boards are all gone as well, or most of them. So but it's very interesting place, and we're gonna just have a little bit of an exploration. Not a great deal you can say while you're looking around somewhere like this. It's absolutely unimaginable what people must have gone through during the three battles of Ypres and Passchendaele that were fought in these areas over a period of over 4 years. Some incredible acts of bravery, some unbelievable decisions made, sending people to their deaths as they just climbed over the top. Can you just imagine how you would feel lined up here with the ladders up on the edges of the trenches, and just being ordered by the generals to just literally climb out over the top there into the machine gun shell fire coming at you, and through tangles of barbed wire, climbing over bodies and body parts. It's just a horrendous thing to even consider, and I don't even know what more I can say. I'm a bit lost for words. Let's have a climb down here. Oh, not as agile as I used to be, not that I ever was. And this apparently runs down, looks flooded now and barred off, but there's a whole network of buildings, or well, not to say buildings, but rooms and excavations just dug off, a whole underground network here that would have been where people slept and ate, and where officers would have sat in little rooms and poring over maps and plans, and possibly intelligence that was gained from location of German machine gun posts, etc. and mixture of stone and sandbags by the looks of it. And yeah, you just really beyond, I suppose, modern day imagination as to what conditions were like here, the fear that people would have felt, the knowledge that you may die today, you may not, you might be lucky, you might escape, just to live to another day, to go through exactly the same fear again, day after day, month after month, and potentially year after year, I guess. I don't know whether people were actually in these same locations for longer lengths of time, but every day on the front line must have been a day where you would wonder whether you'd see the day out or not. But these days it's almost impossible to imagine. And I've used that term quite a lot, but genuinely is. Just stopped because I saw the Welsh flag flying in the middle of a field in Belgium, and obviously realised that the areas around here are going to be surrounded by memorials for various regiments from all over the world, not just from Britain. And people often say, make comments like, England won the war, and I think far from it. When somebody uses the term Allied or Allies or Allied armies, that's exactly what they mean. And not just Welshmen, but people from all over the world, including the US, particularly Canada, Australia, New Zealand, India, and the Indian subcontinent, all came and sadly sacrificed hundreds of thousands of lives in the cause of trying to find peace in Europe. Row upon row upon row of headstones. just incredible to think, incredible to see, to ponder. Just what went through these young men's, boys mainly, at my age now. These were kids. What were they doing? Who were they doing it for? What were their last thoughts? Was it for God and King and country? Was it for the politicians that sent them? I doubt it all very, very much. They were fighting for their own survival, fighting for their friends, their comrades, their units, their regiments. Just fighting to survive one more day closer to the end and home. And all these young men, they didn't make it home. I bet there's not one grave here of a government minister, of a prime minister, of a leader, of these fine men who send these young boys to be slaughtered. Take the video. Welcome to Ypres, or Ypres, or Ieper, as I say in Flemish. And according to the British soldiers in the First World War, wipers, which is absolutely perfect because they brought out a newspaper while in the trenches called the Wipers Times, and now there's a beer called Wipers Times, and I just had to sample it. We're in a bar just down the road from the Menin Gate, just about to go and see the last post, but we found a bar that's got 25 draft beers. 25 draft beers. Now, I know I can drink a bit, but it's going to take me... Oh, there are, Mrs. B. Sorry, love?
You can't try it all.
Not tonight. Not at the strength of some of them. I think 6% is about the weakest. So, and there's the beer list. So, we might have another. And then we'll go and see the last post and maybe then have another. We'll see how it goes, but we are riding scooters tomorrow as well. So, yeah, next stop will be Menin Gate, which sadly is under renovation, so you can't really see a lot of it. And the last post is now played on the bridge the other side of the gate, but I think it's going to be, after what we've seen today, quite a moving experience. And perhaps, yeah, just a quick beer before we go is probably what we need. Cheers.
Cheers.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
You took a photo or video?
Sorry.
With the sound of the church bells behind us on a beautiful Saturday morning on the edge of a village called Gelleveld, this is the memorial to the 2nd Worcestershire Battalion. They took part in a very, very brave action which actually replugged a gap in the defensive line against the oncoming German army, and in the First Battle of Ypres in 1914, which effectively led to the Germans never breaking through the lines in this area at all, and the Allies holding firm right through to the end of the war. The two new sections on here actually been designed by a friend of ours through the Vespa Club, Richard Greenway from Worcester Vespa Club, and today we've bought this wreath from the War Graves Commission shop, office, whichever you want to call it, in Ypres, and we'll lay the wreath here in memory of the fallen men from Worcestershire. Since getting off the ferry, we've kind of stepped back in time in stages. We started with 1940 in Dunquerque. 1914-18 war looked at some of the things to see in and around Ypres. Well, now we've come back another 100 years to 1815. This area here is called Quatre Bras. It basically means 4 arms, and it's a crossroads, sort of in the middle of nowhere, with the most respect to the people who live here. Was fairly significant. As Napoleon's army was marching on Brussels, Wellington was leading the Allied army, which was British forces, Netherlands forces. This was part of the Netherlands in the early 19th century, and also some other regions of part of what's now Germany, the Brunswickers, Hanoverians, and one or two others off the top of my head I can't remember. I should have maybe done a bit more homework. Fairly significant here. This is where Napoleon sent his Marshal Lay, to try and cut off the Allied army led by Wellington before he reached the forces, the Prussian forces led by Marshal Blucher. So in this location here, Marshal Lay's army took on, met and clashed with, I'm getting my names all mixed up, Wellington's army in a precursor to what happened a few miles up the road, the Battle of Waterloo. It was a bit honours even on the day. Wellington held the field, Marshal Lay turned back in the end, and then obviously the Battle of Waterloo commenced 2 days later. We have a monument behind us to the Dutch cavalry, and also a monument across the road there to the a Wellington monument in honour of the Duke of Wellington. So from here we're going to scoot across to Ligny, which is where another battle happened on the same day, and we'll have a look at what we can see there. Well, hello from Ligny, a short 15-kilometre ride across from Quatre Bras. This is the location where Napoleon's forces met the Prussian forces. It's a busy road junction. The Prussian forces led by Blucher. They were attempting to meet Wellington's army in order to reinforce them and stop the French from taking Brussels. On the day, Napoleon probably again had the benefit of holding the field and technically winning the battle, but he didn't really inflict enough damage on the Prussian army, so which was really quite key to the outcome of Waterloo. So we're going to head up back to the main Waterloo battlefield now and see what we can get from there and what we can see. But as you can see, I've got Julie sat right in front of the mouth of a cannon, but I can't see anybody loading it. I think you're all right, love. So fingers crossed anyway. Behind me is the outer perimeter wall of Hougemont Farm, and we're actually stood on part of the battlefield of the Battle of Waterloo. Hougemont Farm formed a significant part of that battle, as its location was strategically very important for Wellington's army, and he stationed quite a lot of men in here to attempt to frustrate the French as they work their way, if I spin all the way around past the trees, as they work their way up the battlefield, up towards where the crest of the hill behind me, where Wellington's army were based. Wellington had the advantage of land position slightly, being at the top of a very slight ridge, but Napoleon had the benefit of numbers. So it was a fairly sort of hard fought, tough battle, but the early skirmishes were from fire coming from Hougemont Farm that actually stalled the French army in their progress towards Wellington's army, and made a realistically significant difference to the outcome of the day. Behind me is the Lion's Mound. That's the memorial to the entire Battle of Waterloo. Obviously the mound is man-made and wasn't there at the time of the battle, but it's made with the earth that was scraped up from the battlefield, obviously more recently, with the memorial placed on top. The entire battlefield stretches out down away from us here, back down towards Hougemont Farm, which is about 1 kilometre slightly down the slope. And yeah, it's quite, after so many years, it's quite a privilege and interesting experience to eventually come and visit, a bit like in Ypres yesterday, which on reflection, this tends to sound like it's been a little bit of a glorification of war maybe, of battlefields, etc. But for me, it's nothing like that at all. It's very, very sad and poignant to visit these places and realise just how many people between Dunquerque, Ypres and here, just this little small tiny smear on the face of the earth, over 1 million lives have been lost in war. And at whose behest? I mentioned this maybe yesterday at Dunquerque. This is down to our politicians, well, not currently ours obviously, but politicians, world leaders, people hungry for power, hungry for gain, hungry for land and glory. But it's not them who actually lead the troops into battle, is it? It's the young men and boys, particularly when you come here. I mean, some of the people who died on this battlefield were probably only 15 years old. It's just heartbreaking that at the behest of the high and mighty, the good and the great, supposedly, the children and young men get marched into battle to be slaughtered, all in the name of what? Gain, maybe to stop an invasion. I get, sort of understand you have to defend your land, but there's no other race of animal that actually leads itself into just sort of random slaughter of each other, just for a lot of it political gain, financial gain. But it'll go on, I'm sure it will, as long as humans are on the planet. Greed, power, hunger for glory or land or riches will drive people to kill each other, which is just really incredible. But I think this section of our journey into the Alps is over. If you've enjoyed watching us, please give us a like and subscribe. And we're through into the Black Forest as of tomorrow, so two or three sort of days of travelling through the Black Forest before we get to Austria, which will be, I'm hoping, everything we're looking forward to. So on a glorious evening here in Waterloo, we'll say goodbye and catch you in the next one.